All right, guys, it's Jahlon with the Paradox Gaming Network, and I have to be honest, with Ashes of Creation going into today's live stream, my concerns are starting to grow, and I don't want to just mix words. I want to show you guys, like, literally what I'm talking about. There is a lot of expectations right now that we thought were going to get answered in today's live stream. The update to the overall expectation for deliverables, we're still expecting a weekly update on the MMORPG progress, a monthly video, a monthly live stream, lots dev diaries, blogs, lots of stuff that we're expecting, lots of stuff that we're not getting. An update on Xsolla being removed as the payment processor. This was stated on 7 March 2019. An update on My Games, why Ashes isn't showing up for them, why their backers can't buy individual cosmetics. Update on the 2018 and January 2019 cosmetics. When will people who couldn't buy be able to? This actually goes on to a second page. Update on the Castle Siege Alpha 1 tester start date. Update on the Castle Siege rollout. Update on what's going on with the Battle Royale and the seasons. Update on the leaderboard for the Battle Royale since it was very, very soon, 3 months ago. That's a lot of things that are now just starting to pile up, and where are the answers? Now, for the people who watched this video who liked their too long didn't watch, let me just get that out of the way. No hard dates for anything again. No date on the studio move. It's really, really, really soon. No date on the Castle Sieges. The Phoenix Initiative has tested this once. No date on Alpha 1. Internal testing started this month. That's for the Intrepid staff. And they are going to show Alpha 1 at the Game Developer Conference at GDC in March. With that said, this live stream was without a doubt the best live stream they've done since the Kickstarter. And I really do genuinely mean that. Lots of things that have been said to Intrepid, they're starting to take those to heart. They're starting to change how they interact a little bit. And the biggest thing that I can say is a good change to the stream was they took the time to introduce the new people. If one of your pillars, if the foundation is that you're growing slow because you want to bring on the absolutely best people you can, well then take the time to introduce them to the community. At least the people who are willing to come on the live stream. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to be on camera. With that said, we got Ryan Pearson. He's a senior user interface artist. He's got experience at Blizzard. He worked on He worked on Diablo 4. Now, during the live stream, UI mockups were shown. Now, these are mockups. These are ideas. They're generating ideas. It's not sexy to see these, but the UI is so important to get right. Think about all the games that you play that you absolutely hate the lack of control over the user interface. And there are a lot of things that they need to get right. If you're talking 200 versus 250 people, Castle Sieges, thousands of people at Node Sieges, they need to make sure that visually it looks good. So you can't be having lots of stuff, information overload. You need it very, very refined. This is just some placeholder stuff, some brainstorming. But what I like is that Intrepid has gone back to their roots. They are being a little bit more transparent. They're showing stuff, even if it's not in a final state. One of the things is, like, on the character sheet, they want to avoid being a carbon copy of every other game out there. So, you know, making it just a little bit different shows that you took the time to not just do copy pasta. As a side note, I think this is really important that Intrepid is doing again, because so many people have just been saying everything Intrepid has done has been built with Unreal Engine 4 library assets. Nothing they've done is unique. Well, that's all garbage anyway, but the fact that they're specifically coming out and saying they want to make Ashes unique, that's important. Big one here is this is not a final version of what you're going to see. This is a markup. This is brainstorming stuff. But they have gone back to giving us that peek behind the curtain. That is what built such good relations with the community, and Intrepid's getting back to that. They introduced us to Dave, who's a senior animator. He's got 20 years experience, Sony, Tryon, and Amazon Game Studios, Mark of Curie, and Defiance. So he was on the stream. And another small little thing that Intrepid did today was they're delivering on things that the community is specifically asking about. they're going to show us art and animations in every single live stream, but people said, hey, we haven't seen daggers. So here we go in the live stream today. We're seeing daggers for the first time, dual wield ability. They are going to be in Alpha 1. Now, I know people are going to say, well, it's just concept art, but you asked, you got. You got what you wanted. Another big one, really, really big one, Intrepid is tackling the big criticisms that are out there. How Intrepid creates creatures. And they've said it, they create a template, and then hundreds of creatures are going to come from one template. Now, people have complained that they're only showing off the cash shop stuff. Well, yes, of course. If I sold something, now I want to show the people who invested money, who bought product, I want to show them what they bought. Now, some people are like, well, it's always cash shop, it's always cash shop, it's always cash shop. Well, they're going to show you something. I'm happy that they're showing the cash shop assets. If you feel differently, leave a comment below. But here's what they did to, respond. They responded this month. If you remember a couple of months ago, in the corner we had the brew bear, and people were like, oh, well, you're showing off a cosmetic that you're selling and you sold, and cash shop this and cash shop that. Okay, well, here's got variations on the bear showing the reusability. They build out the skeleton, they build out the asset once, and they can have multiple variations. You get the cursed charger, and there's an entire video on the cursed charger where they show you the buildup and the development of the asset. And then you see some other variants of it. And I think this was the perfect way for Intrepid to respond. And then you've got the raptor, the swift claw. I know everybody hates raptors. And then it too has some variants. And they were having a good time in the live stream talking about this guy. And that's good. It's good to see them back to being Steve and Jeff and Margaret being, funny and talking, but they're also addressing the community concerns, showing off some variants of armors that you might see NPCs wearing, dungeon bosses wearing. I thought this was good to show. I know a lot of people complained about the quality of the armors in APOC. Well, now they're showing you a little bit more. They're also showing assets. As you can see here, the scale runner video, they put that out there so that people could see some bits and pieces going on. Now, this second part that you're seeing right here, some mounted attacks. Don't assume that player characters are going to get these mounted attacks. It was deliberately foot stomped during the video that this is NPC mounted attacks. We probably won't see the player characters getting these. Also, some other assets that are in development are getting done. This is a big one because a lot of people have said, shouldn't all the assets be done by now? Well, yeah, ideally, when the game had a before 2020 launch, you would think all the assets would be done. But the big thing is that they still haven't done that studio move. They're still running on about half staff, and I'm going to talk about the staff numbers a little bit later. But as you can see, they are developing assets, they are getting pushed through, and they're willing to show the stuff again. And this is what really buys Intrepid good relations with the community. I know a big thing people have said, they've criticized those cosmetics in the cash shop, the accessories or the belts, and now the belt items are being shown. And I think the level of detail on this is absolutely amazing. I'm not big on the cosmetic side of MMORPGs. I could really care less. I couldn't care less. Give me one cosmetic that looks good, and I'm probably going to wear it like 7 months out of the year. But this is Intrepid finally delivering. Like, they've heard the community's concerns, and now they're responding. The starter outfit for the MMO, we're moving past concept art, and I think at this stage it's important. We're moving past concept art all the time. You're seeing modeled assets. Also, to bring Apocalypse into this discussion today, they did a very good job twice during the live stream of not trying to oversell APOC. In fact, in just a minute, I'm going to talk about maybe we're hearing the end of the necessity of the Battle Royale. But they were talking, Bacon was on, and he was talking about the prefab houses from APOC didn't really work the way they wanted them to. It's a bonus. APOC, they figured out something early, so they didn't have to go way back in development. But the issues were found, and they changed the way they're doing the prefab, the container for the house, and all the assets in the house. But the good thing is, they found that they had room to do more detail on the houses and not lose performance. So I know a lot of people knock the Battle Royale all the time, and they say it didn't need to be a Battle Royale. It could have been just an open battleground. It could have just been a death match. It could have been a lot of things. And I don't disagree with you that for testing the action combat, it could have been a lot of other different things. But without APOC, they don't discover the problem with the container, with the housing and those assets until later. And the more work they've done, the more work they have to rework. So I think the way they defined that today was good without trying to oversell Apocalypse. Animations and other things coming together. This is the construction animation, and this is the really weird part. Bacon didn't really, it kind of sounded like during the live stream, he didn't want to show this. Steven wasn't sure if they were going to show this. I think showing this today was absolutely brilliant, because this is so much better than other games where it's just a puff of dust and then all of a sudden what you're building is completed. I really like the fact that you might see stages of building a house or a building for your node. You're going to be a lot more encouraged to go out and get those last 100 lumber for the building inside your node, or that last 10 stone brick for your freehold, if you see it at 90% and you just can't use it yet. I think showing this today was another really good thing. It kind of re-inspires my confidence that we're getting somewhere, because why would you just stage this to show it unless you're legitimately working with it and building on it? We also got to see some nodes stuff from the Valoon. It was kind of weird. This looks really busy, and this is just an encampment. And then we move to the camp. We move into the village. This is great to see the level of detail. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's just still work. It might not be there in the actual game. And that's fine. You can feel that way. Honestly, I feel encouraged after seeing this. I'm going to jump in and I want to pull out some of the important questions out of the Q&A. First one was mine, and I was talking about the map and how it's 480 square kilometers, and this is the map we got in the creative director's letter. And Lex, myself, several other people have been trying to figure out the total landmass, and Lex did a great job. There's a thread on the forums where we're talking about like the math of the map. And I outright asked, I said, how much of this map is land and how much of it is water? And I respect Steven and Jeff because they came back with, we don't know. We don't have the actual numbers to give you, but it's all playable area. I am a lot more comfortable with the answer that all of the map, everything I see is playable area. Even if it does turn out that it's about 250 square kilometers of land and the rest is water, I'm a lot more comfortable knowing that all of that water around the border isn't just, the edge of the world with nothing there. If you played Arcade, the entire east side of the water was like literally nothing there. Some other questions, variety of healing methods. Will we have burst heal, healing over time, etc.? The answer is yes. They've talked about a lot of the playstyles before. They want people to define their playstyles. We have some information on healing. You can check that out at the wiki, talking about how much you invest in a skill. Does it do healing? Does it add a hot? Does it add damage? But I think it is good to remind people that healing, it's going to be all based on taking Cleric as your main class with taking Cleric as your main archetype, and then from there, your secondary archetype makes your class, is going to give you 8 different playstyles. Was asked about gathering. Is it going to be click and a bar fill or real-time process? And I like the fact that they straight shot. They don't want to inundate that process with a lot of action. They want crafting and gathering to be a relaxing state. You're going to hear a little bit later that the crafting is like the backbone of the economy. But there are people who say, well, what about the Final Fantasy 14 method of crafting where there's things you have to do? I'm going to be honest, that gets tiresome after a while. Having to spend like 3, 4, 5 minutes per craft, that does get kind of, overburdening. But this is another one of those. I'd like to hear your comments below because Steven and the staff at Intrepid, they do watch these videos and they do read the comments. So if you really have a strong position on gathering or crafting, leave it in the comments below. Let's talk about keeping players interested in playing Apocalypse past level 50. And this is where I'm going to give Steven a really big kudo on the way he answered this. Apocalypse has satisfied its purpose. There was a laundry list of things that Apocalypse was intended to do. Test their patcher, test their installer, test server infrastructure, their baseline lineup, action combat, skill shots, hit scan, and projectile. Lots of things were tested. And everybody that hates Battle Royales comes back and says it could have been something else. Well, we talked about the housing thing. There are a lot of things APOC did by being a Battle Royale. But when it comes down to the future of the Battle Royale, we don't have an answer for its future. Steven, no mixed words. Hey, we don't have an answer for its future. Somebody asked about legendary spells. This has been talked about over the years. They did kind of talk about legendary augments as something they're looking at. Limited time use spells, limited time that you have it, or a limited number of uses. You'll notice in big red letters so nobody runs off with it. They may explore this, but it's not on the list. It's not on the list of things they're going to deliver. Talk about, can a summoner summon a dragon? The answer was yes. They're going to try to have a summoner creation suite where you build your own creatures to summon. And this is going to be similar to the animal husbandry system. Now, again, I know a lot of times people make fun of Steven and they say he's always just adding things and feature creep and moving on. And I like the fact that Steven said it, and then he immediately said it's already in the game design document. Now, we as the public can't prove or disprove if it's in the game design document, but I'm fairly certain that they're not going to start like BSing us on what's in the GDD, because that's really easy to get leaked if you get a disgruntled employee who doesn't like the lack of integrity. And I don't have any reason to doubt Steven's integrity. He's always straight shot when I've asked him the hard questions. So on this one, I would believe that it's in the game design document because he's talked about the animal husbandry system and he's talked about the summoner creation suite with us 2018, late 2017. So it's familiar. It's coming back to the front again, but it's familiar. Carrying on with the Q&A, is Arena going to be useful for gearing up? There are going to be rewards for the Arena system in PvP, but they don't want to over-incentivize instanced PvP because they don't want to depopulate the open world. And they don't want to make it a one-stop shop for equipping your character. And I think this is the perfect answer. I know it's going to irritate people who like to arena. They like to stream just beating up people in the arena, and they like to be rewarded for it. The problem is that it's supposed to be an open world game with, player agency, risk versus reward, player consequences. And it's really hard to allow for gearing up through the arena if crafting is your main economic driver for the game. And they repeated it again. Crafting is the main economic driver for the game. It's why we have to gather, why we have a limited carrying capacity when we gather, why we have to have mules, why we have to have caravans, why we have to process. So there's a lot of pieces here. So I'm really glad that they just outright said, no, it's not going to be a method for gearing. Will weapon auto attacks have an actual... We don't have an auto attack. Weapons have their own skill trees. Keep that in mind. But an auto attack, that's not what they're running. They're also not running that press Q that you saw PAX 2017. That's gone as well. Now this one is another one where I liked how Steven just came out and no nonsense, no BS, just straight said to the question of open world battlegrounds. He said an open world battleground is an event in the open world. It's an event that with spawned objectives and spawned rule sets. And then what he went on to say was terminology can vary. This is what I mean when I say open world battleground. If you guys remember in April of 2019 when I interviewed Steven, I said, hey, we hear a lot about action combat. What do you mean when you say action? What do you mean when you say hybrid? And he said, well, what I mean is, he's the creative director, so the only definition that matters is his. So this is not the traditional battleground that you're used to, like the WoW players who were thinking they were going to be open world like AVs. No, that's not going to be what it is. Moving on, if you have a camel or a goat cosmetic, do you need something other than a horse to put it on? The answer is no, and I'm glad this question came up because you got to keep bringing this one around. There are 3 tiers of mounts, and your cosmetic skin applies to the tier, not the type. Tier 1 is ground mounts, Tier 2 is gliding mounts, and Type 3 is flying mounts, those legendary mounts. Next up was, can players create natural disasters? Indirectly, yes, they can, but it has to be from a public event that resolves in a negative fashion. Can mages specialize in a particular element? This question keeps coming up, so I hope this time the answer sticks with people. Yes, you can specialize in a particular element. You might want to do that exclusively. You might not. There will be scenarios where this works well. There will be scenarios where it doesn't. And then Steven gave the example of the downside is people can stack resistances. So, for example, I get really well known that in this part of the map, I'm a fire mage. I have everything stacked fire. I have a 3-shot combo. Well, what are people going to do in response to that who know they have to confront me? They're going to stack a lot of fire resistance, and then I'm going to find myself wishing that I hadn't exclusively taken fire, and I might have a couple of other spells in my arsenal. Talking about iframes on dodge. Again, the way they answered this is why I say this is the best live stream since the Kickstarters. Not decided yet. They're working it. You don't need to give us a absolutely definitive answer if the answer is it's not decided yet and you're working on it. Just tell us, not decided yet, we're working on it. With PvE being based around quests, well, it's not. Some of the times people ask questions and it's pretty clear they haven't spent even 2 minutes to research the game. They've said many times the quests are built around the sandbox and the overarching quest lines will reflect how the world develops. They want to make sure that they don't specifically drive people to node 47 to do a quest, because then all that XP earned in that node artificially creates a situation where node 47 is getting a lot of XP for not a player-driven reason, but a game-driven reason. They've talked at length about they want to make sure that they aren't influencing the player agency. Moving on, will the adaptive AI be used on all mobs or just the bosses? The goal is to use it on all mobs, but leveraged more on the bosses because this is where the rewards are. Are there certain things locked to certain classes? And the example was there are times in dungeons that a particular class will be able to open a shortcut or a bypass or some other advantage. No, you will never end up having a class that is a single solution, because again, that would be taking away the player agency. There will always be other methods to solve it. So if you didn't bring a mage with you, you wouldn't reach a part of a dungeon where you're just stuck. Moving on, can crafting stations be moved? Depends on the tier of the crafting station. You need certain tiers to make certain things. Some stations can be on freeholds. Some can only be in certain nodes with construction of particular buildings. So now we're starting to get a little bit more into the node stuff. Steven, send divine nodes. But with that, they're keeping true to the idea that decisions matter. Your mayor may not build a smithy. And because your mayor didn't build a smithy, you now can't make certain items in your node because you're lacking the right building to do it. Armor for crafting and gathering professions. Almost certainly. Again, I love the answer. Not yes, not maybe, not we're looking into it. Almost certainly. And provide buffs and boosts to that profession. Friend list management. This was kind of a weird question. People want overall more control over their friends list. I kind of understand what they want to do. In EVE Online, it's really important to control who can see you. They said the standard approach, you're going to have the invisible. I think the takeaway from that is I would believe that they're going to go more the EVE Online route where I have to approve you to be on my friends list. And I can be invisible all the time. Like, I can control what I'm displaying. Final Fantasy 14 has a mutual agreement. Like, I ask to be on your friends list, you okay it. So I think that's where the question was coming from. So we'll see that. That's actually written down. I'll drill down with them later, closer to launch on that. PvP flagging system. Can you attack but not kill people and not get corruption? Okay, this is one of the biggest things people... There's so much theory crafting and so much trying to get around the corruption system. People need to stop. Just wait until we get to play with it. Corruption comes on the kill. Higher level characters may easily kill a lower level character. That's an added detriment if you do this. As a combat reminder, you cannot see the opponent's health. You see their nameplate deteriorate. You do not get a value or a percentage. So you don't know that I have 900 life left. You just know that I'm close to death. You know that I'm seriously damaged. You know that I'm not damaged at all. Will guild halls have the parlor game system? No. They want to keep that in the tavern building type because there's financial parts that go with it. With that, I want to talk about the staff updates real quick. I know that I'm a stickler for this. I beat up Intrepid about why aren't you telling us who's hired? You kind of talk about the size of your staff, the qualifications of your staff, yada, yada. So today we got the new staff updates, actually yesterday on the webpage. So new on the webpage, they are showing 48 staff, which is good. These are all the people that are showing new on the webpage. They're easy to find. Go to the webpage. They're the ones with a white background. Also, from the APOC game credits, there were a couple of platform engineers. Don't know if they're still at Intrepid. Don't know that they're not. And then confirmed hire, as seen on the live stream, we got Ryan Pearson. So the good news is that the numbers are going up. We do have to say goodbye to a couple of staff members who have left. And that leaves us at 47 plus 1 with 48 to 50 in-house staff now, plus Bear McCrary, who's the lead composer. And this is a lot more comfortable of a number. Shifting gears real quick for the end of the January update, you get the creation of the Duneween Falcon video that we got. And I know people don't like these fluffy pieces. Not everyone likes these, but these do show the process. There's that concern about assets I talked about. Shouldn't they already be done since the game was going to launch? You're adding 6 new assets per month. But we already talked about this earlier in the show. Yes, they make a cash shop asset, but that cash shop asset is going to go on to be multiple different other things in the game. I would actually like to see the marketing team get some extra mileage out of these blogs that they do. And then on Monday, do a tweet with just one image and a little teaser. Tuesday, another tweet with a different part of it. Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, release the big, here's all of it. I think that would give us something and build a little hype. Because people are saying Intrepid's not sharing anything. Intrepid's not sharing anything. Well, you could easily take this for 4, 3, 2, an extra, however many you wanted, extra tweets and extra shares, and it would get stuff talking about in the Discord as we talk about, hey, I can't wait to see what the final piece looks like. With that said, guys, that is it for today. You see on the upper left-hand side, this is what Ashes 101 will look like. I am working on it since I have nothing else to do. I am going to try to make sure Ashes 101 is cleaned up and neater. Right now, ashes101.com will direct you to a Ashes 101 site. It's not the current version. When we get some more of that stuff, Steven, send Divine Nodes. I will put up Ashes 101 on its own domain. Until then, if you have any questions about Ashes of Creation, you can get me on Discord. I'm Jahlon, #0001. You can get me on the official Discord, or I run a Discord of my own. Until then, you guys take care, and I will see you next time. What are you still doing here? Nobody ever stays this long. This is the end screen. Well, since you're here, there's a couple other videos I think you should check out. And all those names, those are my patrons over at Patreon. I couldn't do this without them. So, big thanks to them for all their support.